The club. Hello and welcome to the next installment of the Right to Clean Water's Clean Water Casting podcast. That's also a video. So with us today is a special guest, Captain Adam Morley, who has been incredibly helpful with the campaign for years now. And I just wanted to hand it over to Adam and let him tell us what his perspective is on not just clean water, but the right to clean water and how it affects his life. So Adam, let's just start off with, can you please introduce yourself to the audience? Tell us where you came from, what you're doing, why you're here, and what matters to you.
Absolutely. I want to thank you for having me on the show, on the podcast here to talk about my biggest passion, which is clean water. As you mentioned, I am a captain by trade. I grew up here in Northeast Florida in southern St. John's and northern Flagler County. I got my first fishing rod when I was 7 years old, when we lived at a place called Princess Place Preserve. Those that are familiar with this area know what a gem that area is. But back when it was privately owned, my mother was the caretaker there and we grew up there. And that's where I got my first fishing rod and was really introduced to our local waterways. From there, we moved back to Crescent Beach, where I ended up getting real familiar with a local bait and tackle shop. In fact, the bait and tackle shop that I now run, which is the Genung's Fish Camp. I'm going to real quick give you a tour here. We're actually outside the Genung's Fish Camp. Founded in 1948 by Jack and Mary Jane Genung. I started working here as a teenager after utilizing it as a bait and tackle shop for my childhood, and then worked here as a teenager. And about 8 years ago, came back to take over the operation. My wife and I, along with our son, have been the proprietors now for about 8 years. So clean water is it's our lifeblood here. Without clean water, I can't support my family. The community would not survive with clean water, because clean water is the economic driver to our community and the state as a whole, really. Because we'll see, as we were talking off camera, we'll see when there's big issues down in South Florida. I started noticing this a long time ago, back actually with the when it was the Horizon oil spill on the Gulf Coast. When you have regions that are impacted by water pollution of any sort, whenever you have water quality impacts on such a large scale in a region, it displaces people, which then destabilizes the communities that all of these displaced people rush to in order to save their vacation or save their livelihoods and their businesses. They all move to different areas, and those areas received such pressure in such a fast or short amount of time that it really causes a lot of stress on either the local fishery, the local businesses. We're not prepared for it. So there's a lot of there's that ripple effect, and pun intended when talking about water. So that's kind of a big thing, and why I really got engaged and interested in water quality issues throughout the state, because it's not just a matter of having clean water where we are. We're fortunate enough here in Northeast Florida to still have clean water, but dirty water throughout the state still impacts us here in a lot of different ways. And that's why I got involved and where my passion really lies.
Very good, thank you. And I know that you've been trying to bring more voice into Tallahassee. What is your perspective of Tallahassee's ability to solve the type of problems that we're facing as a state on the matter of clean water?
So that's a tough one. I really try to remain neutral and nonpartisan as much as possible, because that's how you're going to find solutions.
Right.
My personal feeling is that if Tallahassee was actually interested in doing anything about water quality, they could have. For 20 years, it's been a supermajority controlled by one party. They could pass whatever they want with a party line vote. If they wanted to address the issue, they could have a long time ago. They could have recently. There's plenty of opportunities. When Governor DeSantis created the blue-green toxic algae task force, the mouthful. These were great scientists that put together a fantastic list of proposals that we could implement now to really address a lot of water quality issues. And the administration got a lot of good publicity out of it, got a lot of press. I think 3 of the things on that list, and they were the lowest of the low-hanging fruit on that list, were actually implemented. Everything else was swept under the rug and kind of ignored because they were able to do that. They got all the good press out of it, but they didn't actually have any follow through. So that really kind of frustrated me to see the solutions, so many solutions presented on a silver platter, only to be ignored. So as far as the current legislature, I have very little confidence or hope that they're going to do much to act on it. And that's frustrating, mostly because in the last decade, the number of constitutional amendments that were passed with the supermajority of voters across partisan lines, the legislature has done everything they could to thwart those amendments, which honestly was a concern with me with the right to clean water. And like, why would I like get involved and like get really engaged in this if Tallahassee, and we know Tallahassee wants to thwart anything that the people put on the ballot. But that's when I had the conversation with you, and you're like, no, it's actually self-implementing. I'm like, oh, well, that's the key right there, because the legislature is tasked with implementing most of these constitutional amendments. And that's where the problem is. If you have a legislature that doesn't support the constitutional amendments that the people vote for, you're not going to get those constitutional amendments in the manner or the spirit that the voters expected or intended to happen. So I was really excited when I found out that this one's self-implementing and it cuts out the legislature and their ability to really thwart this.
Right on. Yeah. And we're there right with you when we're approaching this from a nonpartisan view. We don't do finger pointing or blame games. It's really a matter of systemic issues. You know, we presume people go to Tallahassee to serve the public interest, but there's something there. There's a blockage that is keeping, you know, good people from being able to do good things. So that's the perspective that we hold. And so there's, you know, there's a lot of money flow issues and industry profit interests and control and influence that seems to be the issue, the crux of the issue at least. And so this amendment, it was really designed to protect the public servants so they are able to do their job serving the public. And so and you're absolutely right. It's all about the ability to get the job done. And so and it is self-executing, and that's kind of the good and bad of the length of it. To be honest, we all love 1 or 2 sentences to read, but if you want to hold it and protect it against forces that would want to undermine it, then you need to say certain words. So, but yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Now, how do you think, now once the public interest is able to be served by public servants in Tallahassee and elsewhere, how do you think that will affect the, not just water, but the industries dependent on clean water in Florida?
So when there's confidence in a future of clean water, you're going to have a large economic boom throughout this state, and especially in the areas and the regions that have been having these major water problems for a long time. There's a lot of companies, and I'm one of the small businesses, like we do kayak, canoe, stand-up paddleboard rentals here. So I'm in the industry, and I talk to people, and I know people throughout this state that are like, oh, I'd love to do that, but it's too high risk, because if we have a water quality issue, that's going to shut my business down. So I'm not going to invest in starting up a business that's only going to get shut down because we're not protecting water quality. So I think that'll have a huge impact. If we had something in the state's constitution that protected people and the water resources in this state, that's going to give people a lot more confidence to be able to say, you know what, I can do this, because if anything happens, I'm covered. It's kind of an insurance policy for future business owners in the water industry.
Can you take us a little bit further into what the water industry looks like? I know that you are a business owner twice over, and I think maybe three times. You have
I
very
I wear a lot of hats for sure. So
great.
yeah, the Genung's Fish Camp, which is a bait and tackle shop. We've got a marina here, and we do the kayak, canoe, paddleboard rentals all out of the Genung's Fish Camp. We just recently opened the Inlet Beach and General Store, which is down at the Matanzas Inlet, right on the St. John's Flagler County line.
Mhm.
And we basically cater to the beach and inlet and folks down there in that area. So yeah, both uh, very much fully encompassing water. Both my businesses. If we have any, fortunately we don't, but if we had any major water quality issues that impacted people's desire to get near water or go around water, we're going to feel that in the most negative of ways. And not just us. We're gonna feel it throughout the community. All the businesses are going to feel that impact. I'm also a captain by trade. I've been a captain for 20 plus years. Got my captain's license at 18 years old. Like immediately when I turned 18, I had already had all of my hours, and all my hours logged, everything ready to go. I'd taken the test and was ready to get the captain's license at 18. And I've been doing that. I've been doing that ever since. I'm still currently a full-time captain in a very different industry, from what I do. I don't do fishing charters. I got out of that a long time ago, and I decided that it was going to be a much more leisurely, relaxed position as the captain that I do. So I actually run Old Town Party Boats now. I work for that company as a captain, and that's a very different vibe. But nonetheless, we depend on clean water. Without clean water, we don't have people wanting to get on the water. Like we're a party boat. We're a BYOB. Like we get young folks that are typically just there to party and have a good time. Environmental issues are not on their mind. They're just out there to party and have a good time. But if the water quality wasn't what it is, and they were hearing that there were potential health issues or health concerns with being around it, they're not showing up. They're not booking trips, and they're not coming out, and they're not having a good time. That impacts that business and that industry. Ecotourism, obviously, is going to be the same thing. Any industry that is on or around water. We're currently on a barrier island here. We have our shop on Anastasia Island. Any of the businesses on this island, whether it's the coffee shop or the hotels or whatever, they're all surrounded by water. And if that water is compromised, their business is compromised. It's that simple. And so, again, just knowing that it's protected in our state's constitution is going to go a long way in like building the confidence along our coast, where 80% of our population is in Florida. 80% of our population lives within a couple miles of the coast or a coastal body, and that's huge. So we really need to take water quality serious.
Yeah, it seems to me that it's not just the direct businesses that depend on like water as part of their trade or business model, but as you mentioned, the hotels and the restaurants, and these seem like generally small businesses that are being directly impacted, and they don't have the buffer that some of the larger franchises might have to continue to survive. So this is a direct
Exactly.
to the
Yeah.
community, you know, feeding
Yeah.
their
And when their businesses do well, other small businesses do well, because when the owners of a small business are doing well and they're making that income, they're turning around and they're spending that income. And so, and again, it could be viewed as selfish and spun as selfish for me, but I want my other small businesses in the community to do well, because if they're making more money, that means that they're likely to come to my business and spend more money. It's that simple. That's how it works.
That's how it works. Yes. That's wonderful. The fact that the business interests have been in Florida, at least, slowly turning their attention to the issues of clean water. What would you say to a fellow business owner about this particular opportunity to get involved?
I I would tell them that they need to sign up and become a petition location if they've got any sort of influence over their regular customers.
Mhm.
Uh, get informed on it, and it it's a no-brainer, really. But still, nonetheless, get informed on it and participate. Get involved. Do what you can as a business owner, because your business is at stake. Whether you are in the or on the water is regardless. If you're within a couple miles of the water, you're in the business like that. You should be in the business of clean water if you are within 50 miles of water. Honestly, like that's the way I look at it, because that's how connected water is, and that's how connected communities are. So get involved and help the campaign as much as you can.
That's great. And final remarks now. I'll let you come up with something as I ask it, but if you were to have the mic and you were able to talk to regular Floridians who are not environmentalists, who are not directly affected as a business owner, but regular Floridians who are, you know, in party mode in some cases, or just too busy with regular life obligations that they're not, you know, attuned to the problems or this solution. What in your mind would be something that they would care about, that they should pay attention long enough to do something about this, such as signing a ballot petition, or, you know, if they can't volunteer, throw $5 into the pot or something like that. So what message do you think would have the most compelling effect in their minds?
That is such a difficult question to answer with a single answer, because like in my background in like business and marketing, and that's what we're talking about ultimately, is marketing.
Right.
And you have to know your audience, and there is such a broad audience out there that you can't have one message that reaches everybody, unfortunately.
Right.
If that was the case, I would have mastered the marketing thing a long time ago. But instead, there are a lot of people with a lot of different interests and passions, and you have to figure out what it is that really drives and motivates people. I would say a couple of the answers to that. Uh, do you like lower taxes? A lot of people are going to say, "Yeah, I like lower taxes." Okay, well, this is good for us. This amendment is good for us, because what's going to happen is we're no longer having to pay the cleanup costs associated with large pollution or pollution in general, which is currently what's happening right now. The legislature is, um, I'll just put it very bluntly, they're allowing for the water to be polluted. That's what's happening. And so what would happen? And then they're allowing for it to be polluted, and now we're paying to clean it up. that's our tax dollars being wasted. We know that it is cheaper to prevent it than it is to clean it up. So if your issue is taxes, this amendment is going to save Floridian tax dollars because we're not having to clean up somebody else's mess that we didn't make. Put it on the ones who are responsible. Let the polluters pay, not us. So that's the message that I have for them. The message I have for others, anglers. Florida is the fishing capital of the world. It's a $14 billion a year industry. Recreational anglers, we spend a lot of money on gear and excursions related to fishing, and all of that surrounds water. So if you like fishing or if you like to eat fish, get behind this amendment. It's that simple. So depending on who you are, there is a very good reason that you should be very passionate about in order to get behind this constitutional amendment.
Well, thank you for doing our job for us. That was perfect. Thank you very much. I'll go ahead and close this out. But if anyone has any questions or would like to learn more about the amendment, we didn't really get into the amendment very much, but there's a lot of information on the website, FloridaRightToCleanWater.org. Has contact information in there, our email address, if you have any follow-up questions specifically. But we have our petition there, not just the one that you have to download and sign, but also the full text. And if you have any questions, just let us know. And we are happy to promote these types of messages, such as from Captain Adam Morley today. That wonderful interview. I appreciate your time, Captain.
Absolutely.
And
thanks for having me. And I do think it should be mentioned that there's we've got a raffle going on or coming up that folks can possibly win a chance to take a fishing charter with me as well. So it'd be very special to win that because I'm very selective about the fishing charters that I run these days. But it's something I'm also doing to help promote the cause.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for your time. And we will be seeing you on social media pretty soon. Thank you.
Fantastic.
All right.
Thanks, Mel.
Have a great one.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.